Hello and welcome to this edition of Beyond the Politics, our regular examination of the events happening right here in the Quinte region and the people who work so hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. I'm your host, Paul Martin. Joining me, two councillors from the City of Belleville from Ward 1, Councillor Garnet Thompson.
Welcome and thank you for asking me, and great to be here.
And from Ward 2, number 2 on the sheet, number 1 in our hearts, Paul Carr.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Thanks. So many things to talk about for the city, and we're going to have a chance to get an in-depth update on what's been going on in Belleville since the election and as well moving forward. But one piece of big news that happened not that long ago was, of course, our fire chief, Monique Belair, moved on to Kingston, and the search to find a new fire chief was actually settled fairly quickly in the former deputy chief and now current fire chief, Dan Smith. So, Paul, I'll actually start with you. Let's start with the selection process and the results of that search. Talk a little bit about Dan Smith and how confident the city is for him to move from the second chair to the first chair.
Yeah, so Chief Smith comes to us obviously with some experience. He's been in Port Hope and Quinte West previously, and in the short time he's been here, he's gained the confidence of the CAO and council, and so it was recommended that we consider Chief Smith, and so it was a pretty easy selection, quite frankly. And there's something to be said for a little bit of continuity when there is change, and we experienced change with the last fire chief that had come in. If you're constantly having change in an organization, it's not always good. Change is important, but there needs to be some continuity, some familiarity, good working relationships, and certainly Chief Smith fit the bill there.
Garnet, how important, talk about, for people who may not be familiar with it as well, and as someone who's now seen this over the course of the last 2 decades in the City of Belleville, how important is the fire chief's job, not just as fire chief, but of course, as some people don't know, as the director of emergency services? So when big events happen, like when we had the fire involving some of the construction materials last fall, it's the fire chief that has to step in and take the lead. How important is it to have the right person in that job?
Well, that person has to be coordinating so many different agencies around, and it's not always just the agencies in Belleville. There's outside agencies has to come into the play. Ontario fire marshals and that have to come in, and it's important that that person know what's going on and has the authority to be, I'm the spokesperson, I'm the one that makes the calls, and if we don't have that and it spreads out, that person has to be the number one. And obviously it has to be the fire chief, because it could be a grass fire, it could be a multi-level fire. That person has to be the fire chief.
Now, when Council was talking about a very contentious issue, which is, of course, the annual spending plan for the City of Belleville. The initial estimates were, of course, more than well over 5%, but it came down at just over 3%, whereas other neighboring municipalities were at 5.3, 5.6. Are you satisfied with how that process went and where the final number you achieved is in terms of being both responsible, proper investment, as Councillor Carr was talking about, but also responsible to the taxpayers in terms of keeping any potential tax increase low?
It was a struggle this year because we had a lot that we need to do, a lot of infrastructure we need to do. And then, of course, you got your operating budget that comes in there. There's standard increases, staff increases in wages, fuel, and so on. So we need to buy more equipment. But to come in at 6-7% was unthinkable. And it's not just the taxes. We also, and I get very adamant about sewer and water. So we get a 3% increase or 5% in taxes. We get a 5 or 6% increase in sewer and water. As I always say, Paul will say, there's only one taxpayer. But when we went and we sat down and looked at it, and I know the mayor and senior management looked at it before we got it, eliminated some items that we got told about, but then when we sat down, we sent it back to staff to relook at it. They come back with a reasonable number and something that we can live with. Nobody likes a tax increase, but with the system we have now, 3 and a little bit seems to be acceptable to the public. But to go 5, 6, 7% is unthinkable, along with the sewer and water. So I give staff all the credit in the world.
Were you happy with the final number, Paul? And was this year more challenging? I mean, there are always expenses, there's always challenges, but every local municipality was looking at a very large number to start, because there were a lot of demands that seemed to be coming to the table at the same time. Was this a more challenging budget year?
I would say yes. One of the more challenging budgets I've seen in the time I've been on council. The COVID year was, I say year, it was longer than that, but the 1 year in which COVID really impacted the city financially, that was tough. However, the province came with recovery money, which kind of offset things. Here's a completely different scenario. We have runaway inflation across the country, which impacts us, as Councillor Thompson said, fuel, our insurance costs, so when you start talking about all these storms and different things like that, insurance costs went up significantly. The fuel, we have to be competitive, so staff salaries and wages have to go up as well in order to remain competitive. Otherwise, we're going to lose good employees to other municipalities. So it was very tough. And I'll be honest with you, I think, and typically in past budgets, I would always bring in a motion to cap it, have staff come back, and we didn't do that. And then so as a result, we've got, here's the whole pie. We would like the whole pie, and now it's up to you, council, to carve into it and figure out how much we can have. So, which is tough because we don't get into the operating side in terms of what they do day in and day out. We just know that they need X number of dollars. So I think going forward, though, it's going to be a little better. I sit on the finance committee. We're looking at bringing in some plans and priorities for each department, results at the end of the year, so there's measurements. The important thing, though, and I tell residents all the time this, is that on the City of Belleville website, there's a property tax calculator. If you go there with your value of your home, assessed value, not market value, assessed value, and then pick where you live, you can see where your tax dollars go, right to the penny. And it's important, when you look at library and public health and social services, you're paying for a lot of service.
So let's talk about Amazon. Some things became released in multiple, we all knew. Everyone in the city basically knew, but they made it official not that long ago, and they gave a timeline, basically getting close to the end of this year, which means in 2023 we might actually see things happening on that side, and much more has happened there than a lot of people are aware of. I'll start with you, Councillor Carr. How big an announcement is this for the city, and how great is it to now to be able to discuss it more openly?
Yeah, it's certainly a significant element to our industrial park, and will be a major employer. And then the spin-off businesses that come with it as well. So it was great to see that a multinational corporation would look to the City of Belleville as a place to invest and do business and employ our residents. So it was certainly a good announcement, and there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes for many years before it becomes truly public. And despite the fact that it's been said many times to be the worst kept secret, council, we were I had to remain confidential in terms of the things that were going on, but it's great for our city.
Garnet, what does it mean? What does Amazon mean for the city?
Well, it gives our city just another step, because this is a major employer. It could be a major employer. Not that the other manufacturers in the city don't hire a lot of employees, but Amazon is a big name in the world today. And for them to choose Belleville, we're just very happy that we have industrial land that was available for them. But it's great, and I honor them, because they could have announced this a long time ago, but they kept it till the point where the building was up, or basically up, before they made any big hooray about it, and they still want us to keep it sort of low-keyed until they make that grand opening. So I commend them for that. It's a big announcement, but they didn't want any fanfare too early that maybe we've had in the past.
Paul, last one on this one. They've also done work not just on the building, but on that area. They've actually done some of the intro work that will be necessary from a road perspective for the new Belleville East Arterial Route, or BEAR, that we keep hearing about. How great is it to have them as a corporate partner when they're willing to invest in something that won't just benefit them, but will actually change the way traffic works through the whole city?
No, that's a great investment, and the fact that they were looking at it from a community perspective is excellent. That East Arterial interchange, along with the 6 lanes of construction on the 401 is overdue.
Yes.
And with that, we'll be able to divert so much traffic off of Canifton Road, which really isn't designed for heavy truck traffic intermingling with local vehicular traffic. So I think it's a great gesture and certainly speaks volumes to their contributions already.
So we're going to have more time, Councillor Thompson. Now, what are you going to do with it? So we're talking about civic celebrations. So it recently came out, of course. Planning's already well underway for Canada Day and Waterfront and Multicultural Festival in Belleville. How great will it be to take those in this year?
Well, you know, I've always tried to, and like all councillors, try to get out to all the events. The Chamber looks after most of our events. It's good to get out and celebrate with them. Good to get out and celebrate with the public, because the public expects us councillors to be out to these events. And these events are important, because without these events, Belleville any community is flat. So we get out to celebrate these particular events. To me, it's important. And, you know, if we can just generate that interest in any particular event, then crowds attract crowds, interest attracts interest.
Paul, any particular summer events you're looking forward to?
Well, obviously, you know, you've touched on all the highlights. I know there's other nonprofits that are doing things as well. Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Rib Fest is a good one.
Tasty.
Very tasty. And, you know, I certainly enjoy that one. Maybe a little too much, but you know, just again, being out in the public in those just relaxed settings, just having those casual conversations and being accessible. I say all the time that the best way I can represent people is to hear from them. So, you know, when we're at Canada Day or we're at the Waterfront Festival, opportunity to run into people and just have those casual conversations. And, you know, it's funny, you never know where an idea is going to come from. And the Homelessness Summit's a prime example. This all started when I was at a door at a resident, and the comment was made, why can't we get everybody in the same room and have a conversation? And as I walked away, I thought, I think I have an idea here. But it was that conversation at the door. And so it's the conversations we have at different events, and just celebrating too that our city's doing well and that we're flourishing.
We have 1 minute left, hockey talk. So comments on the Beast End season, and of course congratulations to Nick Cousins from Belleville, possibly not as liked by Leaf fans, for scoring the goal for the Panthers that eliminated them. Paul?
You know, obviously, Belleville Senators came up a little short. They struggled. They had so many. I think they used 53 players because of injuries in Ottawa. So there was a lot of flux with that roster, which makes it difficult to ice a team. It also makes it difficult from a marketing perspective. Look forward to new ownership that's coming in. I think you'll see some revamping of many things. So I'm looking forward to the off season and what that develops as. And yeah, I think I'll be rooting for Florida on this one. It should be interesting.
Last word to you, Councillor Thompson, on hockey.
Yeah, you know, the Senators are a valuable asset to our community. We don't get the attendance like we should, which is unfortunate, but that's professional hockey. And when we can get that level in the city of Belleville, you know, that speaks well for our city. Mr. Cousins, I have to congratulate him. He got the first goal of that series, and he got the last goal of the series. And I know his mom and dad, I text them a number of times during the game. They're pretty proud parents, and they should be.
Proud of Nick Cousins, proud of Belleville. This has been a more recent edition of Beyond the Politics.